Hello, friends. How are you today? It's me, your social studies lady, the one who loves to talk about social studies. I hope you're ready for a fun day of learning. So let's get started. Do you think you're ready for this? Let's see if you're ready for this. So, last week in social studies, we have studied several battles that took place during the American Revolution. We learned that the French openly supported the colonies and sent supplies to them after the victory of Saratoga. We also learned that soldiers improved their ability to fight after George Washington brought in people who specialized in training while spending the winter at Valley Forge. But even though they had all these advantages, the American Revolution continued for another 3 years. So, could today really be the end? Oh, it's a clincher. We don't know for sure what's going to happen, but let's find out. This is going to be the Battle of Yorktown. When the French joined the Americans as allies, they sent troops and supplies to America to help in the war. They also sent the French Navy to help defeat the British Navy. General Rochambeau from France worked closely with George Washington during the war. General Henry Clinton replaced William Howe as the commander of the British troops. He believed he could defeat the Americans by moving his troops south. He thought if he took control of the southern colonies, he would be able to end the war. He put Lord Charles Cornwallis in charge of leading the troops south, while he remained in New York with a small army. General Clinton sent British soldiers to Georgia by ship. Cornwallis took over Savannah, Georgia, and declared all of Georgia to be in control of the British. He then headed to Camden, South Carolina, where he also defeated the Americans. Feeling that the war was now in their favor, they headed to Virginia and made camp at Yorktown. Yorktown, Virginia was on the York River and near the Chesapeake Bay, where the British Navy could join them. General Clinton said that he would send more troops by ship to meet Cornwallis in Yorktown. Washington and Rochambeau were working on a plan to stop the British. They could not decide if they should attack General Clinton in New York or head to Yorktown and attack Cornwallis. General Lafayette told Washington that Admiral de Grasse was bringing a French fleet of 28 ships to America from the West Indies, and they were going to the Chesapeake Bay. Washington and Rochambeau decided to meet the French in Yorktown to stop Cornwallis. So General Lafayette right here was kind of being a spy for the Americans, but he's on the French side, so they're still friends. Washington did not want Clinton to know of his plan to move American troops to Yorktown. He sent a small division of his army to New York to distract Clinton. Then, on August 18th, 1781, he marched 14,000 American soldiers south toward Yorktown. Admiral de Grasse got to the Chesapeake Bay and attacked the British Navy there. The French fleet outnumbered the British fleet, and the British ships were forced to retreat back to New York. Admiral de Grasse then positioned his fleet in the Chesapeake Bay at the mouth of the York River. This prevented the British Navy from bringing more troops and also kept Cornwallis from leaving by ship. Once Washington and his men reached Virginia on September 28th, they made a semicircle surrounding Yorktown. They were joined by 3,000 of Admiral de Grasse's men. Cornwallis and his men were now completely surrounded. Cornwallis and his troops built earthworks of wood that surrounded the fort at Yorktown. Once Washington had Yorktown surrounded, they began bombarding the earthworks with fire in hopes to eventually get across them. They moved closer and closer while exchanging gunfire with the British. The Continental Army outnumbered the British Army, woohoo, and Cornwallis had no hope that he would get more troops from New York with the French Navy occupying the Chesapeake Bay. On October 16th, he tried to escape by taking his troops across the York River to Gloucester Point, but it was storming and only one set of boats made it across. An evacuation was impossible. On October 17, 1781, Cornwallis decided the situation was hopeless for the British. He sent a drummer boy and a soldier with a white flag to Washington in surrender. Negotiations began on October 18th, and official papers of surrender were signed on October 19th. In the ceremony of surrender, American and French soldiers lined up facing each other, and the British soldiers walked between them. They surrendered their weapons in a pile while a band played an old British tune called "The World Turned Upside Down." Cornwallis refused to attend the ceremony, stating he was sick. He sent his second in command to give Rochambeau his sword of surrender. Rochambeau pointed to Washington, who refused to accept it. He had his second in command accept the sword. I wonder if we know who his second in command was. If you've seen the play Hamilton, you probably know. Almost 8,000 British soldiers were taken as prisoners of war, along with all of their weapons. This battle turned Britain's world upside down. After 8 years of war, the American Continental Army, with help from France and Spain, had defeated the most powerful army in the world. Dun, dun, dun. So, the Revolutionary War was over. The Battle of Yorktown ended up being the final major battle of the American Revolution. The alliance between France and the colonies proved so valuable as they worked together to defeat the British. The Treaty of Paris, which we'll talk about tomorrow, marked the official end to the war. So even though the battles are over, a treaty that had to be signed called the Treaty of Paris that we will talk about tomorrow was the actual end to the war. This treaty or agreement stated that America would be recognized as an independent nation. It also defined the land boundaries, with the American territory stretching to the Mississippi River in the west, Florida to the south, and Canada to the north. The United States was now ready to move forward as a new nation. Woohoo! So that's it. The Revolutionary War is pretty much over. Hopefully you were able to learn a lot today and gather a lot of information about the Battle of Yorktown. But don't worry if you didn't. You're going to find out more about it in your task today, which you will find on the next slide. So, until we meet again, I hope you have a great rest of your day. And as always, I hope you enjoyed our lovely video and social studies. For now, see you later and have a great day, guys. Bye.